Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Greg Furman and this is the Forex Weekly Outlook for the week of May the 14th, 2018. Now, to get started this week, we're going to begin where we always do with that all-important US dollar index. Now, much like what I've talked about in last week's Forex Weekly Outlook, the dollar appears to have put a top in right around the 93.50 area, and going with institutional real money flows coming out of the dollar at the end of the first week of the new month appears to be coming to fruition yet again. So despite the big move up in the dollar, we've hit basically what appears to be a top here. But what I will point out that VantagePoint forecasted weakness in the US dollar basically 7 or 8 days ago, warning us that this is not a true move to the upside, that we're likely getting ready to turn back to the downside, and we're following these regular monthly cycles. Now our predicted MACD starting to turn over also. Predicted RSI again failing in heavily overbought territory. Now, what we want to watch this week with the dollar index, 91.80, that key VantagePoint long-term cross pivot area, which is again coming in at 91.80. As long as we're above this area, there is a chance that this is just a corrective move to the downside on the dollar. But if we break through 91.80, the dollar is likely peaked and we're getting ready to move lower. Now, the direct effect that this is having on the equity markets, as we can see using intermarket analysis, that when the dollar weakens, the S&P 500 usually makes gains. That's what's happened here, our triple EMA cross. Next week for the equity markets, 2674, that's our key pivot area. But the VantagePoint indicators are strengthening. The only one that concerns me here, 84.4 on the VantagePoint predicted RSI, that's moving towards overbought territory, but I feel we still have room to run, and we have the potential in the next week or two getting back towards this 2810 area. Now, of course, oil also following very closely to the equity markets right now. Oil's made a big move up. The Iran deal dead. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but either way, oil is this trend in oil here, guys. I originally forecasted oil going higher back at the original Tampa seminar in April when it was all the way down at $60 a barrel. We moved all the way up to $72 a barrel, and we're just starting to come into summer driving season. So look for further upside here after a corrective move lower towards this 68.98 area. Now, with everything that's going on with Iran, gold is still firm here, guys. We're closing right on that key VantagePoint level, 1315. But as long as we're holding above 1300, gold still remains firm. So look for this coming week for gold to make further gains on dollar weakness. Now, as gold makes those further gains, what we will likely also see is the euro follow gold higher. The key VantagePoint level now coming in at 120.35, but we must break back above the 130 area. If we can get back up above 120.35, which I'm pretty confident we will, then that would see the euro return probably back into the 123, 124 area. But right now, the critical area that we have to at least test is 120.35. Now, again, if equities can move higher, if gold can move higher, if oil can move higher, these are all negatives for the US dollar and indirectly a positive for the euro. Now, it's counter trade here, which is of course US Swiss franc. When we look at the US Swiss franc going into next week, it's looking very toppy here, guys, just below the 101 area, 1.0050. We're closing at 99.95, so it looks like this pair is getting ready to come down to the 99 level to retest that key VantagePoint pivot area. 51.9 on the predicted RSI. We're looking for a bigger move to start the week to the downside. But again, we want to watch this, what appears to be a triple top in place. That's coming in at or about the 1.0056 area, like I just said. So we'll watch that area very closely. But for now, shorts clearly carry an edge on that particular pair. Now, as we look at the pound dollar going into next week, we've got through the Bank of England, the Governor Carney's comments, and it's still, the pound is refusing to push below 134.80. So next week, guys, we've got a support building, but once again, VantagePoint was warning us at the 136 area that this downside was very limited as the medium term crossing the long term predicted difference. We've got an RSI that's rising, but we really want to see this RSI push above 50. If we can get above 50, then we've probably got the green light here to go ahead and buy this. But I think for now, as long as we're holding above about approximately the 134.50, then longs definitely carry an edge. When we look at the short-term crossover from VantagePoint, it's starting to cross here. When we see a neural index, that the neural index is this red bar here, when it turns green, that basically we want to jump on the bandwagon and get long relatively quickly. Now, with dollar yen this week, we put another double top in here at the 110 area. I suspect we have exotic barrier options sitting at the 110 area, and somebody big is protecting the 110 area. So for the dollar yen, if it has any upside potential left here, which I'm not really convinced that it does, then we must break free and clear of 110 here, guys. So watch this level closely. But I feel with the close of 109.35 that we are going to test the 108.94, the key VantagePoint pivot area on a long-term basis. But a breakdown below 109, closing below that level for 1 or 2 days in a row, guys, that's the green light to start shorts here. So still a bullish bias, but it's absolutely weakening in my respectful opinion. Now, with US Canada, very similar to what I said in last week's weekly outlook, that any move higher in this particular pair is a very good shorting opportunity. The Canadian dollar is notoriously strong in May, June, July, and part of August due to summer driving season and the very high correlation that it has to oil contracts. So that's something we can't disregard. Despite Canada's unemployment report on Friday was not very good, but in when you look a little deeper into the report here, guys, it wasn't as bad as what it seemed. Wage growth is there, you know, underlying full-time jobs is still kind of there. So it's not a great labor report out of Canada, but it's not horrible either. Wage growth is something the U.S. labor report is missing. So for now, as long as oil, I would expect U.S. Canada to correct a little bit higher. But I believe that this area around 128.30, 128.50, these key VantagePoint pivot areas will hold. And by mid to late day Monday, potentially Tuesday, we'll have the opportunity to get a better price on our shorts up around that particular level. Now, as we go into our other two main commodity currencies, Aussie US and New Zealand US. Now, Aussie US, I've heard some pretty wild analysis out there. Guys expect a 600 pip drop on Aussie US, but that's single market analysis, guys. When we look at intermarket analysis, if gold is moving higher and equities are moving higher, the backdrop fundamentals of what's going on with the Aussie rate hikes is not really that important here, guys. The intermarket correlations drive the markets globally. So when I look at this, as long as the S&P continues to move higher, the Aussie and the New Zealand currency will follow it. Right now, we're getting all tangled up around this 75.56 area, the key VantagePoint long-term pivot area. So what I mean by a pivot area, the market comes to it, it either breaks through or it rejects it and it moves lower. So if we can break through 75.50 here, guys, we've got the green light to buy. So that's the key level to watch this coming week to see if we can push through it. If it holds, then we're likely going to come back down to last week's swing low, down around 74.10. But at this particular time, I don't see that likely if we have broad US dollar weakness and the equities rebound. New Zealand US, same deal here, guys. We've got a swing low down here around the 69 level, 2 bars to the left, 1 bar to the right. So if this area down here around 69.15 holds, then we would be looking for long retracement back to the 70.60 area. I think there's a better than 50% probability that we are at least going to test this key 70.60 area. So I think we have retail sales next week, a rather light docket from the economic data. But the economic data, guys, I think we pay far too much attention to this noise. Focus on our intermarket correlations that I've discussed, and I'm sure we will all have a very good trading week. So with that said, this is the Forex Weekly Outlook for the week of May the 14th, 2018.